Good evening, St. James. This is Pastor Bianca. We're here for our life session on tonight. I'm excited about this life session. This is one of my friends, my brothers, Timothy Lane. I know y'all say, man, Pastor Bianca has a lot of friends and brothers and sisters, but I really, really do. In ministry, we have a lot of connection with folks that just really love the Lord and really just want to serve and help others. So I'm excited about tonight. Tim is already on and ready to impart. And I hope that you have your notepads together and ready because I believe that he's going to drop some nuggets for us from a ministry strategy perspective. So if you're viewing us, I see folks are coming on. Thank you so much. Let us know that you're in the room. Let us know that you're on Facebook and YouTube. If this is your first time joining us, let us know where you are viewing from. I definitely want to acknowledge you and thank you for being on. Also, if this is your first time joining us, please let us know. There's so many options you could have chosen on tonight. And so I am certainly elated that you chose to view in on this particular live session. And for those of you who are going to view on the replay, if you have any questions or if you have any questions that you would like to ask Tim, you can definitely inbox us, email us, as well as our website is stjamesbc.org, and you can send a message and we can get that question answered for you if you are viewing on the replay. Thank you again as well. Hey, everybody, St. James family is in. I see some folks are chiming in. Good evening. So good to see so many of you coming in. We're going to bring Tim on in just a moment. Just a couple announcements. First of all, I hope that all of you who have joined us on the fast, are still fasting. We have another week of fasting until the 20th after prayer. And I'm just believing God for breakthrough in our country, breakthrough in our nation. I truly believe that some things come only by fasting and prayer. This is a principle that I certainly believe in. And as believers, we certainly believe in praying and fasting. So I hope that you all are doing well on your fast. I hope that you are sticking to it. Don't forget the water. That is so important. 64 ounces of water at minimum is so important. Let's try to do that if you can. As well, on Saturday at noon, Pastor Patrick Grace is going to be with us. I'm looking forward to this impartation. We've had some wonderful pastors on, leaders on Saturday who have imparted. They have given a word. They have prophesied. They have, filled our spirit. And we want to be on, especially that we are on the fast. So I'm asking everyone, St. James family, to make sure that you are on Saturday at noon for prayer. You want to be on. You don't want to miss this session. And then also on Sunday, 10 a.m. service, Sunday worship service, indeed the highlight of our week. Sundays are for church, right? And so this is the highlight of our week as well. So let's bring Timothy Lane on. He is the founder of 6 Lane Agency. He's going to get into that a little bit more. We're going to ask him some questions. We're talking about ministry strategy on tonight, and I'm so glad that many of our leaders are listening by phone as well, because this is for us. This is for us as well. Let's bring on Tim. Let's see. Hey, Tim, how are you?
Pastor B.
Hey, how's it going? How's it going?
It's going good. How are you?
Good. I'm doing well. So glad that you were able to join us. Thank you so much for accepting the invitation.
Thank you for inviting me. I feel like I finally made it. Come on with Pastor B.
No. Yeah, right. You have been on a lot of different platforms and you know a lot of people. So certainly this is hopefully not the height.
Oh, this is a major platform. I'm forever grateful.
Thank you so much. I definitely appreciate that. So you know what we're here to talk about, right?
Definitely.
So I've given a small introduction of you, Tim, but if you can just let us know where you're from, a little bit about maybe how long you've been serving in ministry,
Okay.
anything you want to share personally about yourself as it relates to ministry and service, and even if you want to share the ministry that you serve in now, and then tell us also about Six Lane Agency.
Okay. Definitely. So I'm Tim. I'm from the great state of Oklahoma. I currently reside in Oklahoma City. I'm from a small town that probably no one has ever heard of called Mangum. Um, I've been serving in church since I was like 7 years old. Uh,
Um,
I remember I was cleaning out my closet and I found a box and it had the little certificate that you get, per year for serving.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I was 7 years old serving as a junior usher. Uh,
Wow.
and then I think I got elevated to junior usher president at like 9. So,
Come on.
I've been serving as a leader maybe for about 25 years, which is
Wow.
crazy to think about that.
It
But
is.
our parents were leaders in the church and the community. Church is literally all I know. Going to college, I was like, church is whatever. But I graduated from college and dove right back into, leadership. So I've definitely, all I know is church and leadership, and I have a true
Mhm.
passion for it. And that's really what drove me into founding Six Lane Agency, which is, church. It's a resource that provides leadership training, church strategies, event and project management. My main focus, starting out was working with churches. I've, worked with nonprofit organizations, small businesses, as well as, individual artists and things like that with events. But again, like I said, my passion is church, and seeing churches win. And I think one thing that, with going to college, getting that secular, training, working in corporate America, as well as sports entertainment, has given me strategies that churches never think about
Okay.
because sometimes we can be so spiritually minded that we
Yes.
forget that sometimes these worldly ideas can help us and benefit us.
Mm.
So I'm grateful for all of the things that I've been able to do and to be able to actually bring it back to the church. So.
Awesome. Awesome. That's awesome. Shout out to Pastor McKay. Martin McKay is on. That's our
Pastor Martin.
so shout out to you. So here's a question. So you talked about the different exposures that you've had.
Yes.
Um, and when we talk about ministry, just like you just mentioned, we think spiritual, we think God is going to do it, right?
Yes.
We think all of those things. If we put something on, if we have a good heart and we have a good vision and we have a good motive, that it's just going to flourish and it's just going to be like this awesome, huge thing, right?
Right. Right.
But then oftentimes, or sometimes, that we've had events, even in ministry and churches, even for businesses, right, where the people didn't come that we thought would come, or the word didn't get out like we thought the word would get out,
Mhm.
and maybe we had been doing this particular strategy or maybe this particular method for a long time and we saw it work before, but we thought it would work this time. So when we think of ministry strategy, when I think of ministry strategy, what is ministry strategy? Can you give me a definition or just a way of thinking with
Definitely.
ministry strategy?
So for me, the simplest definition of ministry strategy is you have your vision.
Mhm,
Um, God gives you the vision for your church, for your ministry. The strategy of it is how will you achieve the vision?
mhm, mhm.
So, a lot of times we get confused with vision and strategy because, sometimes you'll hear someone say, well, we're going to um, grow the church by, 100 people.
Right.
That's, a vision, that's a goal, but
Yes.
how will you do it? What are you going to do to achieve that goal? So for me, the easiest definition is the what. what will you do to get there?
Okay, what will you do to get there? And why really do ministries, I mean, need this? If I have a vision, if God gave it to me, why do I need strategy?
Okay, so let's take it to the Bible.
Right?
The
Okay.
Bible says, write the vision and make it plain.
Hmm.
I believe you write the vision, the making it plain is the strategy.
Hmm. Okay.
You know, that's the simplest, we're talking ministry here.
Right.
The If the Bible says it, then and that's what we believe, then we have to do it. Also, it says, consider count up all the costs.
Right.
You know, that's part of the strategy. You're making it plain, you're counting the costs. People make fun of me because anytime that I'm approached with anything, I have three. One of the three questions that I'm going to ask you is, "What's your budget?"
Hmm.
Oh, I don't have a budget. Well, you're planning to fail. Budgeting is part of the strategy.
Hmm.
So it's crucial that you have a strategy, and sometimes writing out the strategy will make you go back to God. Of okay, God, I don't get it. This isn't making sense. So it's okay to say that. It's okay to reach out to someone like myself, or if you have ministry leader friends, pastor friends, talk to them. It's nothing wrong with it, but I believe in order to win, in order to be truly effective, you have to have a strategy.
Okay. And so when we talk about strategy and we talk about putting that budget together, I think a lot of times people just don't know. Like they just
Right.
don't know how much things are going to cost, or they just don't know what to put to it. And I think that that can be a challenge, right? Because
Definitely.
there's some things that we just don't know how much it's going to cost unless we start getting quotes, unless we start
Hmm.
getting things, and then over time we could say, well, the last time I did an event, I knew this was $500. And the
Right.
last time I did an event, but when you're really starting out, so if you're
Hmm.
starting out and you're new at actually trying to put that strategy together and build a budget and go out and make sure that we're meeting the budget, is there a suggestion on how to start or where to start with that? Do you have any suggestions that you could just, don't mind sharing with us that might help someone who is not accustomed to starting a budget?
Right. So for me, one thing and this is what I started early on, when I started leading ministry, um, I would just make clusters.
Hmm.
The inner nucleus is what I call it.
Hmm.
It's, the goal, the vision. If it's, planning an event, you just write that event in there. And then you write out, okay, who do you want to reach? Who's your target? How many people do you want to be there? How much does it cost for, XYZ? You just start writing it out.
Hmm.
You could even do like an outline of, your target market, where you want to have it, how much it's going to cost for the venue, if you want to have food, just price things out. It's simple. I just say write it out because that's easier for me.
Hmm.
I have, a couple of tools of spreadsheets. If you want to reach out to me on, Facebook, it's Six Lane Agency. I can share that with you guys. It's, fairly simple. Of, an event budget, an event plan, a checklist.
Hmm.
But for me, like I said, starting out, I would just cluster and then just write things out, break it down, and then pull it all together to say, okay, is it worth it? Because sometimes you're planning an event and you have, we can spend $1,000, and then once you get to, just the venue alone, it's going to cost you 800. So is it worth it? So I think writing out those simple little details and then breaking it down further is the best start.
Okay. Okay. That definitely makes sense. Now here's a question. You mentioned leading in ministry. Now, in leading in ministry, were you the pastor? Were you a elder at the church? Were you a lay leader? You know how we say leaders with
Right, right.
necessarily without a title. So
Yes.
tell me, when you are planning that event, putting those clusters together, where were you as it relates to leadership?
Okay. So at the time, I was a young adult ministry director. And I hadn't even announced my calling to preach at that time.
Wow.
So it was just Brother Tim.
Yeah.
Um, so leading the ministry at my local church. I was also over the young adult ministry for the state for the Full Gospel Baptist Church Fellowship. Shout out to the greatest fellowship in the world
Come on.
that I call home. But that's what I did. I was, a core leader. So even, with church planning as a whole, I sat in on, strategy meetings for what we wanted to do for as a whole ministry. I would sit in on those meetings to say, this is what the young adults need, as well as a church. Here's some input to, win in the next year.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Good deal. Good deal. So do you think that the pastor is the only person or the main person that needs to understand ministry strategy?
Absolutely not. I believe if you serve in ministry, you should understand strategy,
Mhm.
because that kind of helps you know why you're doing things. For me, even as a ministry leader serving under my pastor, I would talk to him about strategies, so that way we were on one accord. But I
Mhm.
would also anyone that served under me, I would explain to them, strategies, and if they had any ideas, to bring it to make sure that it lined up with the vision for the young adult ministry as well as the church's vision as a whole. But
Mhm.
I believe that everybody from, the top tier, your pastor, to, your lay leaders should all understand and work on ministry strategies.
Okay. Now, give us an example, and if you can, you give us
Okay.
an example, because there may be some lay leaders that are on right now that are saying, okay, I have a responsibility over a ministry, and I've heard my pastor say before, what's your budget? Or I've heard my pastor say before, what are you planning to do?
Right.
And they may feel uneasy or hesitant because they just may not know how to break certain things down. Can you just give us maybe just a few steps on how a lay leader or a person who's over a ministry could potentially, break down an event or break down something that they have to do, to maybe give them some tips or pointers, if you
Okay.
understand what I'm saying?
Definitely. So for me, for one, the way that I actually fell into leadership for the young adults
Okay.
is our church had um, a lot of young adults that would
Mhm.
come on Sundays, and we didn't have a ministry. So what we started doing is after Sundays, we would just go out to eat together, and then once we, created a bond, we me and a couple other people approached our pastor and said, "Hey, here's some things that we want to start doing for to launch the young adult ministry." At that time, we didn't have a budget, so everything that we did was, at the church, or we would go outside, and everyone would just pitch in. So for maybe the first 2 years of building, we would just do a Bible study, and we would do, like an outing. And everyone knew I was up front. I would send out an email of, hey, we're going bowling on this night. Here's, the cost. But as far as once we became structured, um, and there were costs involved, what I would do is I would do, a minimal budget. Hey, it's going to cost $500. So what I
Mhm.
would do is I would go to my pastor and say, hey, can we at least get $250? And then I'll make up the rest, because I still want to do this event. I know how much it costs, but can you meet me in the middle? And then I would just itemize, like I said, with the cluster, I would have everything itemized so it made sense.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, and then once we started, becoming more consistent, then I started bringing in fundraisers as well to say, hey, this is what we're bringing into the church. So can we have a yearly budget of XYZ? Because this is the projected amount that we're going to bring in. So
Mhm.
that's really how I started, kind of grassroots. Like I said, everything
Right.
has a beginning. It's not going to be, especially now, most churches have kind of really cut down on budgets. So
Yes.
a lot of things you'll have to be creative with, but it doesn't take a lot to create a bond and to create the ministry to start going forward. And then once you see that, okay, this is something that's working, people will invest in it.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Very good. That's very, very good. Okay, so let's talk a little bit more about strategy. What type of innovations are relevant? We talk about being relevant.
Yeah,
Everybody wants, to have the cutting edge everything. But in order to be cutting edge, you have to be relevant, right? So
right, right.
let's talk through some of those things because I think
Okay.
sometimes people think that they're relevant if they add a new screen to the sanctuary, or you understand what I'm saying. So
Yeah,
let's talk
yeah.
through that relevancy and what does that really mean.
Okay. Starting point in relevancy is you have to know your culture. You have to know the culture of your church. You have to know the culture that you're, attempting to reach your community. So in that, once you figured out the culture and who you're called to, that's when, you can look at, okay, what innovations will not only attract people, but will keep people, for
I'm sorry, I didn't. I don't mean to interrupt you, but I wanted to go back to something you said.
okay.
You said two things. You said culture of the church, so that's the current culture of age groups, generations,
Yes.
okay, and the culture of the audience that you're reaching. So, for example, if the audience that you want to reach is not in the current culture of the church,
Hmm.
then the relevant tools has to be what reach the audience that we want to pull into the church. Is that what I hear you saying?
Yes. Um, And on that, because a lot of times, if you have a church that's, an older crowd and you're looking to reach a younger crowd and bring in and merge, strategies is how am I going to merge the two and make sure that my older, the seasoned saints don't feel left out as we're doing things to attract, the younger crowd. Or, if the culture is more unchurched where you're attracting and the people that are inside church are just straight churchy and we going ham every Sunday, how can we, pull it back some, but still give you, church? So those are things that you have to look at. Those are things that you have to, you know, um, consider. I know there's several churches who have a contemporary service and then a traditional service. Is
Mhm.
that something that we can do and manage, and does it make sense? Or is it something that, okay, we're going to pull this back because it's not essential to our service? It's just we've been doing it for 1,000 years, and the saints haven't complained. Those are things that you have to look at, and that strategic planning, to like I said, to reach those who you're looking to reach, because there are people that we're supposed to be reaching. If you've not pulled in new members within the past 6 months, you're doing something wrong. You know
Mhm.
what I mean? So I think it's important to look at the two cultures, but also consider you have to consider, what am I going to do? How am I going to do to make sure that not one is left out?
Okay. Okay.
So, and as far as innovations,
Yes.
because I know I went on another tirade.
Well, I kind of drove you there a little bit
Right.
though. So, and I wanted to point that out because oftentimes what happens is when we get ready to do something, it's like, well, this is the culture of the church,
Mhm.
and we tend to plan for those who are there. But
Right. Right.
then there's also a cry that comes out, well, we need to pull more people in, or
Right.
we want to have more people join us.
Mhm.
Well, if we're going to do an event or plan something just for those who are here,
Mhm.
that may not be the only consideration we need to have if we want to pull in a different age group, or
Right.
if we want to pull in, a different interest. Like, say, if we wanted to pull in business people, then that would be a whole nother strategy on how we would get them to come to the church for an event, right?
Definitely.
So I think sometimes what's missing is what is going to draw the audience,
Hmm.
which is kind of why I took you there. So
Okay.
I
Okay.
did. I did take you there on purpose,
Right.
right?
Right. Definitely. Um, And I think one thing that I've heard, with being innovative, we automatically think of innovations as technology. As you said, we're pulling in the screens, we're doing
Yes.
virtual services, and
Right.
those are all, essential. But sometimes that isn't what pulls in the people. It isn't having, your lights dimmed low and smoke coming out the ground. That doesn't do anything. That doesn't minister to the people. So understanding when you look at ministry, what are you doing to meet the needs of the people? You know, and it's not the dim lights. It's not any of that. It is, giving a solid word, giving hope to the hopeless, making sure that, you're really being intentional with your relationships of those that you lead. I think that's been a major part of this pandemic, with everyone having to go to virtual services. We've gotten some ministries, and I hate to say it, um, we've forgotten about the relationship because we were so focused on, oh God, how are we going to, do this service all online? So, one thing that, and I've even challenged some pastors, make sure that you're sending out cards. That doesn't take, much. Making phone calls, sending out emails of, hey, how are you doing? We're just checking in on you. We thank you for, tuning in, but it's bigger than that. We care about you, so that is innovative. I got a card from a ministry, just checking in on me. That, to me, that meant more than, the online service, because you truly care. There's churches that have, mailed out care boxes of, popcorn, a card, and, just something, a crossword puzzle book, little things like that is innovative, but it's not a TV screen.
Right.
It's not, the latest LED wall, so we can't always get caught up in innovation equates to technology.
That is so good. That is so good because I think oftentimes that's how it's presented, or that's just the automatic thought, right?
Definitely.
Because even when I said that, I said innovation may
Right.
not be a screen on the wall, right?
Right.
So it's it's almost like it's automatic that
Definitely.
innovation is technology or a computer or
Mhm.
an iPad or Android
Right.
or something that I
We
have to
don't, we
some
don't,
app that I have
no,
to
no Android, no
right.
Android. That is
I
not
have
a
an
thing.
iPhone. I have an iPhone. I have an iPad. I'm good. We're good.
We feel the spirit.
I'm just trying to minister to all peoples.
Okay. We become all so that we may
That's
win.
right. That's
Okay.
right.
Okay. So we'll win them over.
That's right.
Definitely. um,
Ooh.
but yeah, being, and like I said earlier, with, thinking grassroots, that makes more of an impact because it's taking thought. You know what I mean? So that will catch people and leave more of an impression versus, going to a church with 50,000 screens. If when you do things that it's proven that you actually care, that's what, will keep people coming back because people want to belong. Most people who leave church is because due to they feel like they've, been wrong, that they've been, ostracized or whatever. So church is, is family. Even if we go back to Acts, the reason why the church multiplied is because there were people who cared about people. So I think that's one thing that we have to do in this day and time. We have, sickness in the land. We have civil unrest. As a church, it's time for us to stand up, to show that we care about people, not just our people, and that's across all lines. We have to make sure that we are being intentional with building relationships with all people and showing that we are the true light in, this hour of darkness.
That's so good. That's so good because you mentioned those intentional relationships and ensuring that we maintain those relationships
Right. Right.
intentionally. Because you're right. When this all started, we were just scrambling, right? Just
Absolutely.
trying to figure out what to do, get the word out on
Hmm.
what the new service was going to be.
Right. Right.
And then we've shifted into other things, other unrest,
Yeah.
social justice unrest as well. And even with that, how do we incorporate some of those things into our events to ensure that we're supporting voter registration.
Mhm.
We're supporting, we're thinking how do we also pull that in as well, right?
Right. One thing, and this for me in this time, one thing that I've had to, consider growing up in church, that's where I learned about voting. That's where I learned of, the importance of making your voice heard, through civil
Important.
community meetings and, voting and all of that stuff, having those conversations.
Yes.
My first sexual education class was in church.
Wow.
Um, and I think that's what we have to go back to.
Yes.
These are things that affect everybody,
Everybody.
and that's, again, if we're the church, if we're meeting the needs, these are all needs of people, and you don't have to, push, a certain party, you don't have to push certain agendas, but
Mhm.
just making sure that your people are aware of what's going on in their community and making sure that they are doing their part to, be active and making sure that their voice is heard. I believe every church should have um, the voting registrar, making sure that, if it's once a month, once a quarter, that you're taking out time. Hey, after church, if you've not registered to vote, Sister Susie is outside, Brother Bobby is outside to get
Mhm.
you registered to vote.
Mhm.
We're not saying who to vote for, but these are some things that are coming up. And then having, pamphlets,
That's right.
within the church of these are bills that are coming up that affect our community.
That's
I
right.
did a Wednesday night service a few months back, or actually a year ago, and I talked about the importance of voting.
Mhm.
And at that time, we were voting for a new governor and representatives and things like that. And I broke it down of how this one vote will affect us for years to come.
Yes.
How putting a certain person in place will affect not only me but my kids to come.
That's
So
right.
it's important that you not only vote every 4 years, every time there's things that are coming up, staying up to date of, okay, when's the next voting date? What are the things on the ballot? Educating ourselves, it's crucial. And again, I believe that the churches should be doing things
Mhm.
like that.
Agreed. 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 Okay. This has been great. This has been great, especially, not thinking of innovation does not equal technology, that innovation can be other ideas. I remember one time I had researched something that we could give out to new members.
Okay.
And you know how you can go on, I believe you can go online and you can get all of these Netflix codes. And
Mhm.
so if you can get a code and then you can give them a card and put a code on it and
Right.
say, hey, have a movie on us, we hope,
Yes.
something like that. We hope that you would consider to be a part of our family,
Mhm.
have a movie on us with your family or something like that.
Right.
Like those are the type of innovation that you're talking about. Wow,
Definitely.
I can watch a movie with my family, and
Mhm.
while they're watching it and thinking, wow, the church, gave us a movie, so we
Right.
can watch it on
Right.
Netflix, right?
Right. And even, speaking of Netflix, the streaming services, there's, faith-based movies. So maybe, once a month, giving a suggestive list of faith-based movies to watch
Hmm.
as families. Because one thing, with, the shutdown, we've been forced to, be at home with,
Right, right, right.
everything. So I think it's important that, again, the church push the importance of family, the importance of, sitting down,
Yes,
having family dinners, the
yes,
family discussions, even with, what's going on in our country now,
yes.
you know, have a family night of talking about how do you feel about what's going on. And then let's read a book from, the civil rights movement to see
Mhm.
where we've come from
Yeah.
and where we need to go, from here. These are things that, the church can do and play a part in, and not
Yes,
just push it down throats, but just give suggestions of how to build families and build strong families.
yes, Yes, very, very good. Very, very good. Now, what about we were talking about generations and innovation and so what about generations? I think we touched on it a little bit.
Mhm.
And how do we manage that? Because sometimes there is that management. I know there's some of us who just can't go to two services, right?
Right.
From an expense perspective, you have to have those two services.
Right.
You have to have the musicians, and sometimes people don't see it that way. When you look at two services,
Right. Right.
or when you look at an additional something, that's an expansion of costs, right, as well. So when we look at managing generations and strategy from that perspective, I have some ideas, but I want to kind of hear from you on
Okay.
how we manage that as we grow.
Okay. Um, Again, and I think I said this earlier, you have to know the culture of your church.
Hmm.
Uh,
Hmm.
what groups are there? Making sure that your Sunday service, that you're reaching all crowds. Even in your praise and worship set, is there a way that you could tie in a hymn?
Hmm.
So that way your seasoned saints feel like, okay, I didn't know that song, but I know this one.
Hmm.
And then you can go right back out into, another song, of worship, but just making sure that no one is left out, that
Hmm.
everyone is included and considered in your presentation of a Sunday service. Even with, virtual services now, everyone's doing the electronic giving, but is there a choice to just mail in a check?
Hmm.
You know,
Yes.
it's that simple. Or just having, maybe some of your trusted leaders to, make visits to pick up,
Right. Yeah.
offerings and things like that. But again, just being creative, but
Right.
understanding who's in who's in our church.
Yeah.
And if it's, if you have a younger crowd and you're looking to pull in, the older crowds, what are some things that you can, present? Maybe having, a day through the week that you reach out to, people in your community, the older crowd. Hey, we're offering, grocery services. If you go grocery shopping, we'll help you transport, into your house the heavy things, or going grocery shopping.
Hmm.
Different things like that. Of just being creative, but understanding. Okay,
Yes.
this is our community. These are
Yes.
the people in our church. These are who. This is who we have to minister to. I
Yes.
know. There's a church that I had worked with, and one thing that they started doing is having a quarterly senior seasoned saints meeting of
Okay.
teaching older people of how to use their cell phone,
Yes.
smartphones,
Yeah.
and how to use social media.
Yeah.
How to, because a lot of times with hackers, with the spam calls, they'll give out, their social security number, their bank information. So, and educating them.
They don't even realize that they're doing it. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Educating them on, these are things to look out for. Ask these questions. If it doesn't make sense, don't give them information.
Right.
If you need, notary services, the church can have, someone there on site, for notarized documents, even if it's just once a month, once a week, whatever, whatever works for your church.
Right.
But, just being, again, it's being creative and knowing, these are things that people need in our community, um,
Yes.
and just building from there.
Wow, this is awesome. This is awesome. Thank you so much for this particular discussion. And I know that there's probably so much that you could share with us. Is there anything else from your experience and dealing with churches and serving in churches that you could, number one, share with us, and then two, I wanted to kind of end our discussion on talking about um, passion and servanthood.
Okay,
'Cause I
definitely.
know I know that is near and dear to your heart, and so I kind of just wanted to hear. I know that's impromptu, but I kind
Right,
of
right.
wanted to hear a little bit uh, because you've been in church all of your life. You served. I've worked with you with Full Gospel, and so what I've experienced and what I've seen with you is that you take ownership. You have forethought. you do all of those things, but it comes from somewhere, right?
Definitely.
It comes from somewhere. So talk a little bit, if you will, about passion and servanthood and what that means to you and what ministry really means to you, because we can do all of those things and we can put all of these things in place, but if we don't have a passion for what we do, it's not going to go anywhere, right? So talk to us about that.
Absolutely. You know, for me, passion, I'll start off with this. So I just, I'm a servant. Anything that needs to be done, I'll do it. If you need me to greet at the door, I'll do it. I had started actually serving in the audiovisual ministry
Mm,
because, there was a need there and hey, I'm willing to help. It wasn't a passion of mine. And there were things that would be missed because once you start serving and you're not in the right lane, you easily get burnt out. You become
mm,
frustrated,
mm,
and I really became lackadaisical. It's serving in that ministry.
mm.
So I actually got fired from the audiovisual ministry. I got released from that, but you know,
We do that at church. We fire people
we
from
fire
positions.
people.
Oh,
Um, but
woo.
I was released. Let's say released.
Released.
Yeah. Uh-huh. But it wasn't my passion.
Mhm.
Um, and I think that's one thing in, growing in church when you begin serving, say what be don't be ashamed to say that ain't my passion. There's a lot of people who, may be able to sing. It's a talent, but that's not really their passion. Maybe their passion is children's ministry,
Mhm.
and you can go into children's ministry and be able to sing that to them rather than singing on the praise team and be more effective. But you're more passionate about growing, kids up
Mhm.
in the word as disciples. So I think not being ashamed of voicing what your passion is and then serving under a leader that understands, hey, I know they're passionate about this and they're going to grow. They're going to be able to not only grow the ministry, but they're going to be able to develop as an even greater and more effective disciple.
Right,
Um, and going into servanthood,
right.
I was just on a live earlier with my brother Vince, and he had made the comment of, you know, how he serves faithfully at his church. He has his own business now that he's growing, but he's always at his church when the doors are open on Wednesday and Sunday. It's crucial that you serve at the local level. For me, what does it look like? As you said, we serve, together at Full Gospel. If I'm serving at, the international conference, but, I'm not doing anything at home, or if my pastor friend calls me and, hey, I need you to greet at the door. When I come back home, I'm not doing that. I'm above that. You have to be found faithful at home, and I'm a witness. I can testify and say, when you do that, God will open up doors that you never would have thought you
Wow.
would be even considered for. But
Wow.
understanding service is crucial, and you never know who's watching you.
Yeah. That's so true.
I was in a predicament one time, and it was not good. Um, but I knew what I was called to do. I knew what I was supposed to do. So I did it. I served faithfully. I was frustrated, but I knew being frustrated and going back and forth ain't going to work. So I fulfilled my duties. And as I was walking off, it was two older ladies that was kind of sitting to the side and they pulled me over and they said, "We appreciate your servant's heart. We watched you the entire time.
Wow.
And we can say that we wouldn't have handled it like you, but you ministered to us because of how you handled the situation." I've developed brotherhood with people who, just watch how I move. And I tell everybody, you got to vet people nowadays. Watch how they move. Watch not only what they say, but what they do. Um, that will, not only open doors, but it will build relationships as well. So, just being, true with what your passion is and then being a true servant. Character matters. I've been saying this a lot. Your character matters. You know, um, Your talent can get you somewhere, but it's your character that will keep you there.
That's
And I think for me, that's what's been able to, keep me at a certain level. And even with elevations, it's been my character. It's not been my talents, because I will say I'm not the greatest at, even strategic planning or, event project management. There's people far greater than I am, but it's because of what God has given me and the heart that He's given me. And, sometimes you're tired, but when you know that, okay, God has called me to do it, there's a supernatural strength that will just, kick in for you to do it. So, serve. It's easy. We make it hard. We add all this extra stuff and this mystical stuff to it, but
yeah.
it's really just do it. Let's adopt the Nike phrase and just do it.
Let's
You
do
know,
it. Okay, okay. Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you so much, Tim. Does
thank you.
anyone who is viewing have any questions that you want to ask? I saw some comments. Education is important. We got some feedback. Knowledge is power. Um, Folks really like the innovation does not equal the level of technology, or does not equal technology.
Definitely.
Intentionally showing genuine care for people. That's awesome. So we got some comments on those things. But if there are any questions, if you could comment on Facebook or YouTube so we can get those questions answered. If not, those are all the questions that I had, Tim.
Definitely. And let me say this,
Yes.
comment on education. One thing
Yes.
that my pastor taught me is always educate yourself, always challenge yourself. As a leader starting out, I knew nothing about young adult ministry, and in Oklahoma, there weren't a lot of strong young adult ministries that I could go to. So one thing that I started doing is reading books on young adults, on young adult ministry and young adult um, discipleship.
Mhm.
So that way I knew how to go about discipling young adults, because for me, all I knew was church. I'll go to a church service every day. The young adults that I served were like, listen, you'll see me on Sunday and that's it.
Right.
So I had to, approach them a different way than what I knew. So I had
Right.
to really educate myself, not only on ministry, but on the people I serve. As I said before, understanding the culture that's in your church and the culture that you're looking to attract. So education is crucial, and connection is key. For me, I've been able to, attach myself to, people like you, Pastor McKay, people, leaders in the Full Gospel Fellowship, as well as those outside of the fellowship that serve, in young adults who are millennial leaders. And I'm not, I can call several of you guys and say, hey, I'm considering this. What do you think?
Mhm.
Um, and you guys will challenge me or say, Tim, you are crazy. That's not going to work. Or again, when I say connection is key, connection will bring forth correction. So when I'm wrong, people who are truly connected to me will correct me and be like, hey, take that off Facebook. It's not a good look. You know what I mean? So being truly connected to people, like I said, you got to vet them. Watch how they move. Watch how, when they correct you, what's the heart behind it?
What's the
Begin
hard?
to hear the heart.
Right.
Don't listen to the words, listen to the heart. Because
That's right.
sometimes it
It's
can
that
crumble.
accountability. It's that accountability as well. And then also because we have that connection, right? We could talk about some
Definitely.
things and say, I don't know if I would think about it
Right.
like that, right?
Right.
Because, but because of that relationship, I'm going to take it from you a different way. I know that you're telling me because you care, and that
Right.
you're telling me because you don't want me to make a mistake, and you're
Right.
telling me because you're looking out for me. So
Right.
that is so powerful.
Definitely.
Yeah, that's so
Definitely.
powerful. Good deal. Thank you so much again,
Thank you.
Tim. Now, tell us how to get in touch with you. If someone watches this on the replay and
Okay.
they want to talk to you a little bit more, maybe even they have a small business and they want to kind of talk about strategy, or they want
Okay.
to hire your agency. Tell us how to get in touch with you on social media as well.
Okay. So I am my business, the Six Lane page is Six Lane Agency on Facebook. You can email me, sixlaneagency@gmail.com. I'm Timothy Lane on Facebook and Tim Lane on Instagram. Um, I'm always available. I even have my business number. I'll even give that out. It's 405-638-5543. Feel free to give me a call if you leave a voicemail, or most of the time I'll answer. I'm always available. I make myself available because this is my passion. I love seeing people win. I love, ministry. I love all of it. I love. So when you love it, you'll make yourself available.
Yeah.
So feel free, to send me a message on social media, or like I said, if you call the number or text it, I'll definitely make sure that I correspond with you.
All right. Well, thank you so much again.
Definitely. Thank you for the opportunity.
I have some notes. I even forgot that I was supposed to be putting up some of the comments because I was taking notes. But that's okay. That's okay. That's okay.
Everybody has to go back and watch the replay.
That's right.
For the notes that they missed, just go back and watch the replay.
That's right. That's right. Well, again, thank you so much, Tim. Definitely. And I'm sure we'll be talking soon.
Oh, yeah. Very soon.
Very soon. Thank you. All right. Thank you all for being on. I hope that this was a blessing to those who are viewing, as well as I hope that you got some encouragement for those who are servants, who are leaders. And maybe this is also an evaluation for someone where, you're doing something at the ministry and you find that maybe you were like Tim when he was, in the sound booth and helping out with media, that really wasn't his passion. Now is the time to tune in, to look in. What is your passion for ministry? You know that you want to do something in the ministry. You know that you want to do something in your church. Let's find out what it is so that you can stay committed to it and you can do your best at it. Blessings to everybody viewing. I hope that this was a good session for you and that you took some good notes. If you have any questions lingering, if you think about anything, you can also respond to this video, put a comment, we'll get it. You can also direct message us and contact us on our website as well, and we'll get those questions answered for you as well. God bless. Have a wonderful, blessed night, and we'll see you at prayer on Saturday at noon, virtually, Facebook, YouTube, and conference call. Blessings. You have a wonderful night.